Okay, Foundations of Pre-Cal 10. Let's get after it. We are jumping into trigonometry. So we're only going to really focus on right angle triangles in this grade, and then grade 11, grade 12, we get into the wacky world that is trig. But here we're going to stick mainly to right angle triangles. So let's have a look. Now, before we jump into calculating and solving, you need to understand exactly what it is we're looking at. Now, there's some vocab and there's some calculator work that's going to be integral to make sure that this goes smoothly. So trigonometry is a study of angles. Now, most of the time you're going to see the letter theta. That's Greek letter theta used for angles, but you could see the letter alpha, beta. They love the Greek alphabet. You'll just see symbols for representing an unknown angle. And then we're only going to focus on right angle triangles. So remember that in right angle triangles, we have our right angle symbol, and we have A, B, C, if you want to label it that, but you're going to see we're going to change that labeling. Now, on your calculator, there are a few buttons that you're going to have to get really comfortable with. Now, in trigonometry, we have three main trigonomic functions we talk about in this grade, and they're what's called sine, tangent, and cosine. And on your calculator, the button is, it says sin, but it's sine, okay? And up top in orange or a different color, you'll have that. Tangent just says tan, and on top of it in a different color, you'll have that. And cosine says cos. So I'm going to sort of change my vocab. I'm very rarely going to refer to these as their full name. I'm going to say sine, sure, but then tan and cos. So get comfortable with those. Identify those buttons on your calculator. So the first thing you need to be careful is make sure that your calculator is in degree mode. So it means that at the top of your calculator screen, for most of them, you'll see either the word deg for degree. You might just see the letter D, okay? But you need to see that. The other things that you may see that are wrong is you could see the letter R or the word rad, and you want to fix that. Or you could see the letter G or the word grad. Now, I can show you how to fix that, but there's probably a what's called a DRG button on your calculator, and it's really easy to just switch between them. So make sure you are in degree mode, okay? You have to be in DEG mode or things will go sideways. And as I mentioned on the previous slide, we're going to be focusing on three buttons primarily on your calculator, okay? It's going to be your sine button, your tan button, and your cosine button. But then in order to get to the sine -1, the tan -1, and the cos -1, you also will probably have a second F button, which means your second function. And you'll notice that the color of that button is the same as the color of the words up above. So yes, people always say, I have a calculator where I need to learn this stuff. Yeah, but most of the time you don't know how to use your calculator. So knowing how to use your calculator is really important. If you were using your cell phone, throw it away. Well, don't throw it away. Don't use your cell phone calculator. Get yourself a $11.99 calculator. This one here is my favorite. It's probably the most well used in universities and colleges as well. Okay, it's a Sharp EL510RN. It's like $11.99 at Staples, and it will get you basically through all of high school and university. So get confident and comfortable with your calculator. Now, how do we calculate the value of an angle? Well, this is where the calculator comes in handy. It does all the work for you, but you just need to know how to input it. So if you have a calculator where well, here's how you know you have a good calculator. If you hit 10, so hit that button, and then hit your 3, and then hit your 0, and then hit your equals. So you go 10, the word should appear on your screen, and then 3, 0 equals, and you're in degree mode, you will get 0.577, and I'm going to round at 4 decimals to 4. Okay, that is what you should get. Now, if you got if your answer came out 0, it's because you have a calculator where you need to input the degree first. So you would have to go 3, 0, and then hit the tan button. Now again, if this is what your calculator is doing, get a different calculator because it will make life very difficult in the days, weeks, and years ahead. You want a calculator that inputs in this way. So for sine 30, you're going to hit sine. You're going to key in your 3, you're going to key in your 0, you're going to hit equals, and you should end up with the value, if you're in degree mode, 0.5. Now, when necessary, you're going to round always to 4 decimals for trig. It helps with our Consistency isn't the right word, accuracy. But if you have something that ends like that, it just ends like that. Okay, and now hit cosine 30. So if you hit cos 30, you should get 0.8660. So those are the first three things you do. So you're just using your sine button as is, you're using the main button, you are calculating the ratio value of a given angle. So if you're trying to find the ratio value, you just use the regular button. All right? Now, let's do a few more. So using your calculator, this time you're going to go tan 28, hit equals, and you should get 0.5317. So maybe do this along with me moving forward so you can just get comfortable. So here we're hitting sine, then you're hitting 4, 2, equals, and you should get 4 decimal points, 0.6691. And then cosine of 234 degrees, you'll get negative, and that's totally fine. And you'll learn in grade 11 why answers can be negative. Grade 11, grade 12, negative 0.5878. So 4 decimal places for a trig ratio is where you want to be at. Okay, so what if we have to go the other way? What if you're given a trig ratio and you want to convert it into the angle? So in this case, we have sine of an unknown angle, theta, is equal to 0.8660. And the question here is asking us to do them for each trig ratio. Now, it's helpful here to consider inverse operations. Now, but I hesitate using the word inverse, but just zipping and unzipping. So remember, we had addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, squaring, and square rooting. In this case, this is where we use our sine -1 button. Okay, what it does is it solves for our angle. So you're going to have to, in this case now, hit second function. Make sure that it says second F at the top of your calculator. And then you hit sine. You hit the sine button, but what'll appear is sine -1 on your screen. But that's why you're using the second function button. So it's on your screen, it'll jump up and say sine -1. So your calculator will say sine -1. And then it's helpful to open your brackets up and put in brackets 0.8660. And if you do that, close your brackets, hit equals, you should get 59.9970, and you just round your degree, in this case, to 60 degrees. So for tan, we're going to hit second function, and then you hit the tan button. And since you hit second function, you'll have tan -1, and then brackets 0.8660, and hit equals. And for tangent, you should get 40.89 degrees. So for this sake, we'll just round this to 41 degrees. For these examples, I'm going to round to the nearest degree, but just be aware of what's being asked of you, okay? And then for cosine, you're going to hit second function and hit the cos button. And that way you'll get cos -1. And cos -1 of 0.8660 gives you 29.99, so 30 degrees. So get comfortable when you're solving for an angle, you use the -1 value, okay? So let's try again. So here we have sine theta equals 0.7002, which means sine -1 of that value will give me theta. So that means tan -1 of that value will give me my angle. Cosine -1 of that value will give me my angle. So you can see that this is all calculator usage. So sine first, and you should arrive at 44.4 degrees. So I will just round to 44 in this case. Tangent, you should get 34.9999, so we'll round to 35 degrees. And for cosine, you should get 0.7002, 45.55 degrees, so we will say 46 degrees. So try your best to make sure you're getting comfortable with this and this is becoming fluid, and you know when to use either the regular sine cos tan or the sine -1 cos -1 tan -1, because that's going to be paramount. Otherwise, you're going to be making mistakes all the time. So the last thing I just want to cover is a bit of helpful algebra for trig, and you'll see why this comes in handy in our next video. So if this is your given proportion, A equals BC, what if you want to solve for B? Well, that one's actually pretty easy, okay? How do you solve for B? Well, we just multiply C on both sides. That's nice, easy algebra. A times C equals B. But what if you want to solve for C? Now, this becomes a two-step algebra question, and then you'll see after that it's just one if you want it to be. But we got to get rid of C. We don't want C in the denominator. So you multiply both sides by C, cancels there. You get A times C equals B. And then you divide both sides by A, and you get C equals B over A. So what actually happened here? Well, C and A just switched places. So those are two handy pieces of algebra, and you're going to see why in the next video. So that is basic calculator usage. If you can't use your calculator properly, everything will go wrong. So please make sure that you're getting the same values as I am, you're in degree mode, and you know when to use which button. Okay, great work, and see you next video.